Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Suman Dua from Department of Anthropology, University of Delhi, Delhi. Today I am going to speak on the module Prevalence and Management of Obesity Among Adults from the paper Applied Anthropology. The learning objectives of the module are to understand the concept of obesity, to study obesity among the elderly, to study the prevalence of obesity among adults, to study the management of obesity among adults. First of all, we will discuss briefly about obesity. Obesity is defined as the excess of fat in the body, which increases the risk of medical illness and premature mortality. The prevalence of obesity is increasing in all the age groups, including older persons. Obesity has multiple risk factors such as hypertension, type 2 diabetes, dyslipidemia, cancer risk, mood disorders, heart disease, reproductive disorders, liver disease, etc. Prevalence. Obesity is found to show variation in its prevalence among different populations. This phenomenon is most notable in the elderly population, perhaps due to the greater difficulties in correctly obtaining anthropometric measurements in individuals as they grow older. The frequency of overweight in the population 70 to 79 years varies enormously among countries, from 0% in some Asian and African populations to 35% in Greece. Lohner et al. 1996. Other studies that include the elderly from different countries also show a large variability in the prevalence of overweight and obesity in this population group. Villarreal et al. 2005. Figure illustrates the percentage of obesity worldwide, with United States being the highest, followed by China and India. The figure also shows the marked increase in the number of obesity over the years in both males and females. Obesity, particularly abdominal obesity, represents one of the cardiovascular risk factors. Data existing in literature suggests that the prevalence is more than twice as high at age 55 as at age 20, and the most affected are women. However, appropriate treatment and management for obesity in older persons is controversial because of the reduction in relative health risks associated with decreasing body mass index and the concern that weight loss could have potential harmful effects in the older population. Villarreal et al. 2004. It is also difficult to accurately measure body fat mass in most clinical settings. It requires the use of sophisticated technologies that are not readily available. The prevalence of obesity, defined as the BMI equal to 30, in all age categories has increased during the past 25 years in the United States. As reported by workers Flagel et al., Hadley et al., etc. The number of obese older persons has markedly increased due to an increase in both the total number of older persons and in the percentage of the older population who are obese. Not only are many older people overweight or obese, but the rates are increasing rapidly. In parallel with the dramatic increase over recent years in rates in younger adults, with aging, changes in appetite, food intake, energy expenditure, and body composition occur. The picture describes the effects of aging on the body. With aging, there is a decline in the overall health of an individual. The skull thickens with increase in head size, reduction of brain size. However, there is no indication that this reduction affects the mental function. There is marked changes in skin with wrinkle formation, elasticity, age spots, etc. The graying of hair, diminishing eyesight, heating loss, decline in vital capacity, decline in urinary bladder's capacity, fragility of bones, reproductive health problems, etc., are some of the consequences of growing old. According to recent large surveys conducted by Flagel et al. And Mukad et al. In 2001, approximately 71% of Americans 60 years or older and 60% of those 65 years or older were overweight. Body mass index BMI equal to 25 kg per meter square, while approximately 32% of those 60 years or older and 20% of those 65 years or older were obese. That is BMI equal to 30 kg per meter square. Similarly, 29% of 55 to 64 year olds in England were obese, while 43% of Australians over 65 were overweight and 25% of Australians aged 65 to 74 years and 14.4% over 75 years were obese. Kuppelman 2000. Not only are many older people overweight or obese, but the rates are increasing rapidly, in parallel with the dramatic increase over recent years in rates in younger adults. On average, adults become less hungry and eat less. As they get older, even if healthy, they eat less. Guha 1994. This physiological age-related reduction in appetite and energy intake has been termed as the anorexia of aging by Shah and Prabhakar 1997 and appears to have many causes. Average daily energy intake decreases by up to 30% between 20 and 80 years. Gary et al. 1992. Most of the age-related decrease in energy is probably a response to the decline in the overall energy expenditure that also occurs as people get older. Changes in body weight and body composition reflect the balance of these two declines. As indicated, body weight tends to increase through early adult life into middle age, suggesting a more rapid decline in energy expenditure than in food intake during this time. In contrast, body weight tends to decrease in older people, suggesting a faster decline in food intake than in energy expenditure in later life. Body mass index, calculated as body weight in kilograms divided by square of height in meters, has been widely used and accepted as simple method to classify medical risk by weight status. WHO 1998, Expert Panel 2002, US Department of Health and Human Services 2000. This index provides a measure of the ratio between height and weight and correlates well with percentage body fat in young and middle-aged adults. Although it has been suggested that the use of alternative methods to estimate height, such as knee height or arm span, may provide some more reliable estimates of BMI. These approaches have not been adequately validated. Another limitation of using BMI to estimate disease risk is the effect of aging on fat distribution. Visceral fat, subcutaneous abdominal fat, intramuscular fat, and intrahepatic fat, which are risk factors for insulin resistance and metabolic diseases, increase with aging. Therefore, the size of these depots is likely to be greater in older than in younger adults at any given BMI value. The prevalence of obesity in all age categories has increased during the past 25 years in the United States. The picture illustrates the health conditions associated with insulin resistance, such as pulmonary disease, idiopathic intracranial hypertension, stroke, cataracts, coronary heart disease, diabetes, dyslipidemia, hypertension, severe pancreatitis, cancer, phyllonitis, osteoarthritis, gout, gynecological abnormalities, gallbladder disease, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, etc. Increase in body fat with normal aging. There is a progressive increase in fat and decrease in fat-free mass. the latter mainly due to loss of skeletal muscles. Consequently, at any given weight, older people on average have substantially more body fat than the young adults. The increase in body fat with aging is multifactorial in origin, with decreased physical activity as a major cause and contributions from reduced growth hormone secretion, declining sex hormone action, and reduced resting metabolic rate, and the thermic effect of food. Not only do older adults have more body fat than the younger adults, but it is distributed differently. Loss of skeletal muscle and which is also known as sarcopenia is also a condition which is seen among aged. Aging is associated with a decrease in muscle mass and strength, with loss up to 3 kg of lean body mass per decade after age 50 years. After age 60 years, lot of body weight, the loss of body weight is proportionately of lean body tissue, predominantly skeletal muscle. The causes of age-related skeletal muscle loss are multiple and not fully understood, but probably similar to those leading to fat gain, including reduced exercise and anabolic hormone action. The excessive loss of skeletal muscle leads to sarcopenia, chronic diseases. There is a presence of a greater proportion of body fat in older persons than young people in intrahepatic, intramuscular and intra-abdominal changes that in both young and older adults are associated with increased insulin resistance. For example, in one study, intramuscular fat stores were 50% greater, intrahepatic stores 4 times greater, and insulin resistance 2 times greater in older 65 to 74 years than young adults 20 to 32 years. In younger adults, such changes to body fat stores and increases in insulin resistance are associated with adverse metabolic outcomes, including increased rates of diabetes mellitus and cardiovascular diseases. It might therefore be predicted that the age-related changes in body fat stores would lead to particularly bad metabolic outcomes in older people. This is not proven. However, given that the body weight compatible with longest survival increases with increasing age, and much if not all of the increase in body weight is due to increased fat stores, it may be that advancing age blunts in some way the harmful effects of increasing body fat. This possibly warrants further study. Then we come to the management of obesity. India's health program and policies have been focusing on issues like population stabilization, maternal and child health, and disease control. However, current statistics for the elderly in India gives a prelude to a new set of medical, social, and economic problems that could arise if a timely initiative in this direction is not taken by the program managers and policymakers. There is a need to highlight the medical and socio-economic problems that are being faced by the elderly people in India, and strategies for bringing about an improvement in their quality of life also needs to be explored. Currently, India has excellent health service delivery mechanisms which are efficient in extending the lives of her people by treating chronic conditions and cancer. However, the question is whether such improvements in technology are addressed only to cure ailing population, or can India address preventive programs aimed at decreasing the burden of obesity and chronic conditions? Hence, the next big threat to life expectancy improvements appears to be stemming from obesity and chronic diseases in middle and old age, which are directly linked to an increased risk for death and morbidity. Attempts to predict life expectancy of Indian population in terms of whether it is improving or getting worse becomes even more intricate in the absence of scientific data available for such evaluations. The central and state governments have already made efforts to tackle the problems of economic insecurity by launching policies such as National Policy on Older Persons, National Old Age Pension Program, Annapurna Program. However, the benefits of these programs have been questioned several times in terms of the meager budget, improper identification of beneficiaries, lengthy procedures, and irregular payment. With a brief overview of the health and socio-economic challenges that are being faced by the elderly population in India, the following strategies may be explored by the program managers of the public health care system to bring about improvement in the quality of life of the geriatric population. Primary healthcare services include and the secondary healthcare services. Then we also have tertiary healthcare services, capacity building, rehabilitation, ensuring good quality geriatric healthcare services at the primary level. Now, these are some of the topics which can be looked on when we consider the management of obesity in elderly. The primary health services greatly help in introducing the utilization rate of available health services. Healthcare services should be based on the felt needs of the elderly population. This will involve comprehensive baseline morbidity survey and functional assessment in health areas that are perceived to be important to them. This would be transformed into a community database that will help to prioritize interventions and allocate finances accordingly. The felt needs may vary depending upon gender, socioeconomic status, as well as differences would exist in the rural and urban areas. Secondary level healthcare services are the ones among the secondary level health facilities, which mainly include the district hospitals, sub-district, and medium-sized private hospitals. It is seen that India has about 12,000 hospitals with 7 lakh beds, and most of these are under the public sector. The need of the hour is to set up geriatric wards and would fulfill the special needs of the geriatric population provisioned by and having OPD services, providing screening services as well as curative and rehabilitative services and convalescent homes to provide long-term care, which may be a part of designated hospitals. It is also a priority, like there should be designated hospitals for the elderly. Then comes the tertiary level management. At the tertiary level, care level, which comprises of the super specialty and medical college hospitals, there needs to be provision of geriatric wards and separate OPDs. A multidisciplinary team specifically trained to meet the needs of the geriatric population needs to be created. This team would be comprised of a physician, a psychiatrist, orthopedician, then a diabetologist, gynecologist, cardiologist, urologist, eye surgeon, psychologist, physiotherapist, dietitian, dentist, and nurses trained in geriatric medicine. Elderly patients from poor and low income facilities should be supplied with free or reasonably priced treatment through public-private partnership. Daycare hospitals could play an important role in providing close supervision and follow-up of patients with chronic diseases. Moreover, the cost of a daycare center is comparatively less than that of a nursing home. India has very few hospitals that can provide terminal patient care. Hospitals should be set up at the district level. NGOs, charitable organizations, and faith-based organizations could play an important role in this area. Chaubey 1999. Capacity building is very important. Capacity building can be done for different groups of health personnel by training of medical officers and peripheral health workers. Besides this, an entirely distinct team of health providers known as community geriatric health workers may be trained to provide home care to the disabled elderly population. This strategy has been demonstrated to be successful in community-based projects in Cochin known as Urban Community Dementia Services, wherein these health workers provide home-based care as well as care in daycare centers. Study by Shaji and Roy, 1999. According to the findings of the 60th NSSO round, the proportion of aged persons who cannot move and are confined to their bed or home ranges from 77% per thousand in urban areas to 84 per thousand in rural areas. Strengthening the elderly in the process of self-help can be done by means of physical, psychosocial and vocational rehabilitation. Also, capacity building of the community leaders is essential for the success of community-based geriatric and rehabilitative health services. Community leaders can play an important role in identifying the felt needs of the elderly in the resource generation. Rehabilitation of the elderly. This includes the provision of visual aids, mobility aids at the geriatric health facilities, the availability of physiotherapy services, and imparting health education about staying mobile and providing practical tips. Rehabilitation also comprises of provisions for counseling services wherein older persons can benefit from psychological assistance in the face of stressful life events, interpersonal conflicts, and changes imposed by aging. Under rehabilitation, healthcare facilities should aim for holistic development by organizing training workshops in accordance with skills of the elderly. This calls for advocacy with NGOs and charitable organizations. Opportunities for employment should be provided simultaneously. Then we come to professional training. There is a need to promote professional training in geriatrics and gerontology. Few universities, for example, the Indira Gandhi National Open University, offer a postgraduate diploma in geriatric medicine. There is a need to give emphasis to geriatric medicine in undergraduate medical as well as paramedical courses. Geriatric dentistry should also be developed as a separate independent specialty at the postgraduate level. Research in geriatrics and gerontology needs to be further encouraged. An ICMR workshop on research and health care priorities in geriatric medicine and aging recommended that research be conducted in areas such as the evaluation of nutritional and functional status of the elderly, common chronic and neurodegenerative disorders like Alzheimer's disease, cardiovascular disorders, depression, etc., basic sciences dealing with the process of aging, pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamics of drugs, health system research and research in alternative medicine. Certain lacunae in the field of research on gerontology have been identified, such as the lack of attention given towards the aged in rural India, failure to view elderly people as active participants in the economy, the perception of older persons as being mere recipients of social welfare services, and a lack of focus on policy recommendations, as highlighted by Chakrabarty 2001. Now, let us summarize the module. Obesity is found to show variation in its prevalence among different populations. This phenomenon is most notable in the elderly population. Current trends in demographics, coupled with rapid urbanization and lifestyle changes, have led to an emergence of a host of problems faced by the elderly in India. Obesity, particularly abdominal obesity, represents one of the cardiovascular risk factors. Data existing in literature suggests that the prevalence is more than twice as high at age 55 as at age 20, and the most affected are women. However, appropriate treatment and management of obesity in older persons is controversial because of the reduction in relative health risks associated with decreasing body mass index and the concern that weight loss could have potential harmful effects. It is also difficult to accurately measure body fat mass in most clinical settings. It requires the use of sophisticated technologies that are not readily available. Evidence from studies indicates that obesity and overweight in adulthood are associated with decrease in life expectancy and increase in high incidence of mortality. Central and state governments have already made efforts to tackle the problem of economic insecurity by launching policies such as the National Policy on Older Persons, National Old Age Pension Program, Annapurna Program, etc. Strategies can be explored by the program managers of public health care system to bring about improvement in the quality of life of geriatric population. Primary healthcare services, capacity building, rehabilitation, secondary healthcare services, special wards for the old, and professional training in the geriatric healthcare are important aspects. Although this paper has mainly focused on the medical problems of the elderly and the strategies for improving healthcare services. It must be remembered that improving the quality of life of the elderly calls for a holistic approach and concerted efforts by the health and the health related sectors. Thank you.